The Illusion of Progress: How Black Women's Success Masks Systemic Failure. Good evening, everyone. I stand before you today profoundly moved by a recent conversation that has fundamentally shifted my understanding of what true progress looks like in America. I had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing April Kemp, a revolutionary economic researcher and advocate whose work has illuminated the complex, often contradictory realities facing Black women in business and beyond. April isn't just collecting data, she's rewriting narratives. Her groundbreaking research has torn away the comfortable veil of incremental progress to reveal hard truths that many would prefer to ignore. Through her fearless truth telling and community building, she has created pathways for countless women to navigate both personal and professional obstacles with dignity, clarity, and purpose. What makes April's work so transformative is her refusal to accept simplified narratives, her insistence on examining both the visible victories and the invisible barriers that persist beneath the surface. What struck me most about my conversation with April was her ability to hold two seemingly contradictory truths simultaneously, celebrating unprecedented breakthroughs while unflinchingly acknowledging persistent systemic failures. This duality forms the beating heart of what I want to share with you tonight. We live in a time of compelling headlines and inspiring stories. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America. Record numbers of Black women are earning advanced degrees. These narratives of triumph feel good. They reassure us that progress is happening, that barriers are falling, that the arc of history truly bends toward justice. And these stories are real. They matter. They deserve celebration. But April Kemp taught me something profound. Incomplete truths can become comfortable lies because alongside these victories exists another reality, one that rarely makes headlines, one that challenges our collective narrative of steady progress. Black women are currently facing rising unemployment rates and leaving the workforce in significant numbers, even as overall trends for women in business appear positive. The unemployment rate for Black women now stands at 5.8%, twice that of white women, revealing a troubling pattern of economic vulnerability that has persisted for generations. This duality, simultaneous progress and regression, isn't a contradiction. It's the complex reality of what April calls progress with asterisks. And understanding this complexity is essential if we're serious about creating lasting change. Let me share three key insights from my conversation with April that illuminate this duality. First, progress and setbacks can and do coexist. Between 2014 and 2019, Black women owned businesses grew by an astonishing 50%, the fastest rate among any female demographic. Over 2.7 million Black women owned businesses now exist in the United States, generating billions in revenue and employing millions. This growth has shifted perceptions, inspired policy discussions, and created new pathways for entrepreneurship. Yet these same Black women entrepreneurs continue to face limited access to capital, with studies showing they receive less than 1% of venture capital funding. They navigate systemic bias in business ecosystems and often lack access to established networks of mentorship. Many succeed not because barriers have disappeared, but because they found innovative ways to work around them, leveraging community based networks, online platforms, and women in business organizations for support and funding. Think about that for a moment. We celebrate the resilience and ingenuity of Black women entrepreneurs who find ways to succeed despite these barriers. And we should. But why aren't we equally outraged that these barriers exist at all? Why do we accept a system where extraordinary talent requires extraordinary effort just to receive ordinary opportunity? The second insight April shared is that resilience is not just a buzzword, it is a double edged sword. The lived experiences of Black women overcoming personal, professional, and societal obstacles are indeed testament to extraordinary strength. But April cautions against romanticizing this resilience without acknowledging its cost. When we celebrate Black women's resilience without demanding systemic change, April told me, we normalize the very hardships they shouldn't have to endure in the first place. Consider this sobering reality. Black women are paid approximately 66 cents for every dollar earned by white, non Hispanic men. Over a 40-year career, this wage gap results in more than $1 million in lost income. $1 million. Think about what that means for wealth building, for educational opportunities, for retirement security, for generational advancement. This wage gap isn't just about individual negotiation skills or career choices, it's rooted in both historical discrimination and ongoing occupational segregation. It persists despite Black women's increasing educational attainment and professional advancement. And while greater awareness has led to policy proposals and grassroots campaigns to close this gap, progress remains painfully slow. The third insight from the April speaks to the power of community and advocacy. Success is rarely achieved in isolation. Building networks, supporting each other, and advocating for policy changes are critical for sustaining progress and addressing persistent disparities. April shared a powerful historical perspective on this point. Black women have long been what economists call the canary in the coal mine for labor market instability, often experiencing negative economic shifts, first due to systemic racism and bias. The recent rise in Black women's unemployment rates isn't just a concerning statistic for one demographic, it's a warning sign for the broader economy. Yet, even in the face of these challenges, Black women continue to organize, advocate, and create solutions. Some have turned to entrepreneurship as an alternative path, while others have built advocacy groups and support networks to navigate job loss and workplace inequity. Their collective voice has prompted calls for greater investment in Black women's employment and entrepreneurship, not just as a matter of justice, but as essential for economic stability. This brings me to what I believe is the most important insight from my conversation with April: the distinction between individual success stories and structural change. We love success stories. We celebrate the Black woman who launches $1 million business despite being denied bank loans. We applaud the executive who breaks through the glass ceiling after years of being overlooked for promotion. These stories inspire us. They show what's possible. But April challenges us to look deeper. What would it mean to create systems where Black women don't have to be exceptional just to receive what others take for granted? What would it mean to build economic structures where resilience isn't a prerequisite for basic opportunity? As April powerfully stated, individual success stories may inspire, but they don't change systems. Only collective action and structural reform can do that. This perspective isn't about diminishing achievement, it's about expanding our vision of what true progress looks like. It's about recognizing that for every Black woman entrepreneur who succeeds despite the odds, countless others with equal talent and determination never get the chance because structural barriers remain too high. In this era where many Black women are learning to release the cape of constant striving and embrace a more sustainable way of being, this message resonates deeply. For too long, Black women have been expected to overcome through sheer force of will, to be twice as good, to get half as far, to carry the weight of representation, while navigating systems not designed for their success. What April's research reveals is that this expectation isn't just unfair, it's unsustainable, and it obscures the real work needed for lasting change. So, where do we go from here? How do we honor both the progress made and the work that remains? First, we must resist oversimplified narratives. When we hear stories of Black women's success, we should celebrate them authentically, not as proof that barriers no longer exist, but as testament to what's possible when talent meets opportunity. And we must be equally willing to confront uncomfortable statistics about ongoing disparities without defensiveness or despair. Second, we must distinguish between individual and structural solutions. Mentorship matters, networking matters, personal resilience matters, but these alone cannot address wage gaps, funding disparities, or hiring biases. Those require policy changes, institutional accountability, and collective advocacy. Third, we must recognize that economic justice for Black women isn't a special interest issue. It's fundamental to building a truly equitable society and stable economy. When Black women thrive, communities thrive. When Black women face economic instability, it often signals broader economic vulnerabilities that will eventually affect everyone. Finally, we must embrace what April calls both in thinking. We can celebrate unprecedented progress while acknowledging persistent barriers. We can honor extraordinary resilience while working to create systems where such resilience isn't required for basic opportunity. We can support individual success stories while advocating for structural change. This duality isn't a contradiction, it's the path forward. I stand before you today not just to share information, but to issue a challenge. The most dangerous thing we can do is mistake representation for transformation. Seeing Black women in positions they've never occupied before matters deeply. But true progress isn't just about who gets in the room, it's about changing the room itself. So I ask you, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you simply applaud the resilience of Black women from a distance, or will you become an active participant in dismantling the systems that make such extraordinary resilience necessary? Will you question the narratives that allow us to celebrate isolated success stories while ignoring persistent structural barriers? Will you use your voice, your vote, your dollars, your influence to demand economic systems where talent and determination, not superhuman resilience, are enough to thrive? The true measure of our progress isn't how many exceptional Black women overcome impossible odds. It's how quickly we can create a world where Black women don't face impossible odds in the first place. The choice is yours. The time is now. And the transformation we seek begins with refusing to accept progress with asterisks as progress enough. Thank you.